Hello! It is now the month of December, and as such, Christmas is just around the corner. With last month having a theme of toys, I wanted this month to be Christmas themed. However, I couldn't find shows that were Christmassy enough, ironically. With as obsessed over the evils of Halloween as some people may be, there is a surprising lack of Christmas shows. Not Christmas specials, but shows that are centered around a Christmas theme. There's only one show that I can think of that is Christmassy enough for me to do an entire episode over, so I'm gonna wait until the 26th to talk about it. However, I can still make my show Christmassy enough, and change the background for a more festive look. Ah, that's much better. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cartoon Breakdown. I'm your host, the Animator. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, computers were becoming mainstream and getting into every home. I, myself, finally got my computer that I was able to use for school, coming from a poor family. As computers were becoming more mainstream, the idea of what computers could be used for varied wildly. A lot of what people who didn't have computers assumed was just not true. This was taken advantage a lot by cartoons back in the day, depicting computers as some super technology capable of anything. A good example of this comes from the movie Tron. In it, Kevin Flynn was transported to the digital world where he had an adventure in cyberspace. This is where I think the idea for the show of today's episode came from, Code Lyoko. Although, they did have a supercomputer, so that's gotta count for something. Code Lyoko starts in 2000 with a short animated film called Les Enfants font le cinéma, meaning the children make their movies. The short is literally less than a minute long and starts with a kid running through a cityscape holding a canister of film for a film projector. He gets to his destination and hands the film over to a very familiar kid if you've seen Code Lyoko. It's Jeremy Belpois. Jeremy then proceeds to thread the film through the projector and starts the movie. In the crowd of children, there are at least 4 children that are very familiar from the Code Lyoko series. You have early versions of Odd, Auric, and Yumi, as well as Millie. The short was directed by Thomas Romain, and with help from Tanya Palumbo, Stanislas Burnett, and Jerome Cottre, they created the short for their school. The short was shown at the 2000 Annecy International Animated Film Festival, where Anti-Film saw it and asked the group to create a pilot based on the short. The pilot they came up with was entitled Garage Kids. It was created by Palumbo and Romain and Carlo Di Battini and created by Anne DiGarlo. It's at this point I'd like to apologize if I got any of these names wrong. I am trying to pronounce them as best as I can, but I only have Google Translate, and well, we know how reliable that is. The pilot had the core team from Code Lyoko, with Jeremy, Odd, Auric, and Yumi. But there are very noticeable differences between the show and the pilot. The pilot starts with Odd being the new person on campus, serving as the audience proxy. He discovers that Jeremy, Eric, and Yumi have a secret that they're all keeping from everybody. Of course, that secret is that they are already going to Lyoko, only they call it Xanadu. In the short, the kids actually have their powers from Xanadu in reality, like Yumi being able to levitate Jeremy, who accidentally falls off the roof. There are a lot of elements in the pilot that would make it into Code Lyoko, such as towers and CG animation on Xanadu. It's very well crafted, and you can see where the ideas came from, and what we got was very much different. I like the idea of the kids being able to use their powers in the real world, but I'm glad they decided against it, as it would have been very hard to explain why they have them. Code Lyoko starts with the kids already going back and forth from Lyoko to the real world and fighting Xana, an artificial intelligence that's evil, bent on destroying the world. There's another character specifically for the show called Aelita, who is trapped on Lyoko and incapable of coming into the real world. With the help of Odd, Auric, and Yumi, Aelita is able to power down the towers in Lyoko that Xana uses to manipulate the real world. Another thing that's different from the pilot is explained in the prequel. There, you find Jeremy has already found the supercomputer, and much like the original Garage Kids pilot, Odd is the new kid at school, but him and Auric have already met and have some sort of rivalry going on. Xana wakes up and starts his trouble, and the kids have to team up in order to figure a way out to stop him. With the help of Aelita, they're able to stop Xana, and Jeremy resets everything by going back into the past. Odd, Auric, and Yumi remember everything that happened, but Jeremy has forgotten, so they figured they have to be scanned into the supercomputer for them to be able to retain their memories when they go back to the past. Interesting enough, you can find the original short as well as the pilot for the show on YouTube, so unlike my other episodes, you can actually see the beta version of the show and what it could have possibly been. As for the voices of the characters, you have both Jeremy and Aelita, voiced by Sharon Mann, Auric, voiced by Barbara Scaff, Matthew Gitsy, voicing Odd, and lastly, you had Maribel Kirkland, voicing Yumi. The show started September 8th, 2003 and lasted until February 25th, 2004, with 26 episodes. August 31st, 2005 started off Season 2, and it lasted until February 8th of 2006, with 26 more episodes. Season 3 started September 9th, 2006 and ended November 8th of that year, with 13 episodes. October 21st of that year, the 2-episode prequel aired. August 13th, 2007 started Season 4, and it lasted until November 10th of that year with 30 more episodes, leaving the show 95 episodes in total. I really don't think there's any place you can watch the show nowadays. I tried looking, but couldn't find any place that had it streaming. You can buy the DVDs on Amazon, but be prepared to shell out a hefty price as the DVDs are expensive, considering how many episodes you're getting per season. It looks like it might have been available to stream on Amazon, but has since been taken down for some unknown reason. That's a real shame, as I used to love watching the show over and over again. There was a continuation of the series with a 5th season utilizing both CG and live-action segments. The series was called Code Lyoko Evolution. However, it hasn't been translated into English and hasn't been broadcast in the United States. But that's okay. The series had 4 seasons and ended on a good note, with Xana having been defeated and the kids capable of returning to a new life. If there's one thing I would like to see, is I'd like to see the series adapted into a live-action movie, since that seems to be the thing in Hollywood nowadays. I could see it much like Code Lyoko Evolution, with them using live-action segments for the real world, and CG segments for when the kids are in Lyoko. Although, I don't think the series has been popular enough to actually warrant them making a live-action, big-budgeted Hollywood movie for it. If this was your first time watching Cartoon Breakdown, thank you for sticking with me until the end. And if you could please check out my channel and subscribe, I'd be very grateful. I'm your host, the Animator, and this was Cartoon Breakdown. I couldn't find anything for an ending gag, so I figure I'd treat you guys to a behind-the-scenes look of how I make the show. The one thing that's really good is that since it's a hand-drawn version of me in front of the screen, I don't have to gutsy myself up in order to look good for the camera. The catch is, I have to make my voice sound in peak performance in order to get each take done exactly how it's supposed to be. Here's an actual recording of me warming up my vocals for a taping of an episode. Fascinating, isn't it?